As I promised, I am getting around to showing you my templates. When I was doing my cutting out this piece, then after that I had a bunch of inquiries as to how I do my templates and that kind of thing. So I will do my best to explain it to you. The plastic that I'm using is actually, it's a 30 mil plastic. It's very heavy. The reason why I have this is because I was doing windows inside a tarp. It's hard to explain. I have what I call the shack, like a picnic shelter. I'm talking with my hands here for you guys and I'm going all over the place. I have a picnic shelter outside, but I wanted the sides of it to be all closed in because, well, for winter time, I have a fireplace inside, so I could actually sit in there and on milder winter days have the fireplace going and actually have it warm up inside. So my sister and I actually made tarps, removable tarps. So that's why I have this plastic. This plastic is perfect for the windows here for what I was using it for, because it has a minus 30 degrees Celsius cold crack, meaning up to minus 30, if it got bent, it wouldn't actually snap in half. That's why this is so thick, why it's very flexible and easy to work with. So this is the main body. I worked with this the other day when I was showing the interfacing. This is my pattern piece, and this is my template that I made from it. Literally what I did was took the plastic. I will be making another little piece and I'll show you exactly how I did that, but basically just traced around it, cut it out. I put the plastic back on top to mark some lines. So I have all of my reference lines that are on the original pattern. I have them put on here with permanent marker. In addition to that, because I like to be able to reference certain points, and I like to be able to just do it with a dot, whether it be with a pencil or an air erase marker or whatever it be. I actually, just like I showed with the snap closure, where I marked that, I have a hole there. I went around and I have them referencing all of those lines, because I don't necessarily want to draw all of those lines on my pattern piece once I'm done, but it is nice to have the dots on there as a reference to what I'm doing. I knew that my seam allowance is going to be 3/8 of an inch. So what I did was I took my handy dandy little ruler here. These are awesome, especially for the bag making. They have limited use for quilting, but in making the bags I use this one a lot. So I actually just measured from the corner 3/8, marked it, took my little punch and punched a hole. So I did that all around the outside, also where these intersect. So that's what I did for that, really, other than the mark for the snap. That's it. So that was all done. Now I'm going to leave this here so that the lines on my cutting mat get very distracting. So this is my front flap. Again, just made a template, marked where the snap is going to go. The way that I figured out where the snap is going to go is I used my template for my Peltex, kind of adjusted for the seam allowance, saw where the center of the Peltex is going to be, marked a dot. It ends up being about 1 1/8 inches if you want to mark that on your own patterns. guess while we're on that, this is the Peltex. Now this would be if you're going to be doing the contrast, which I am going to be doing contrast on this wallet that I'm going to be doing the demo on. So of course we have the template for the contrast piece as well. Nothing fancy there. We do need a Peltex piece to fill the whole thing in. I may not have, I thought I had one around here in the shape of the original. If I don't, I'll have to make one. This one is the alternate. So I did this one not with the curve like the original. This is like I did actually in my prototype. How I figured that one out is I had my Peltex piece and all I did was figure out kind of a straight line and kept that consistent throughout my whole pattern. So this will, again, this is basically the same thing. This one is just the full front flap. I have it as Alt 1. This is going to be the Peltex piece that fits inside this one. And it'll need a little bit of adjusting and stuff like that, but that's that one. So I also did, and I'm going to be doing this in my demo, I did I think some of you call it a slanted front flap. I would call it, for myself, I would think of it as a 3-panel. What I did, I'll show you just how this fits on here, and then I'll actually cut out another one of these ones and show you how this all comes together. There's lots of videos, I believe, out there. There's some files that show you how to figure out your angles. For myself, because I don't watch a lot of videos and just kind of work things out and figure them out for myself, is folded this in half, found my center mark, knew that this was where I wanted, actually I probably used my bigger ruler so that I knew that it was even down at the bottom. Made marks for those points, again the exact same distance on each side here, and made my reference lines on each side. So I'm going to make another one of these flaps. So I have my piece of plastic and I have my pattern piece. Now I need to add the seam allowance onto this, so I'm going to have to go a little bit longer. So I'm just going to do I'm going to mark my reference. Actually, I wouldn't even have had to do that. Oh, that didn't work. That one worked. So this one, got myself turned around here. There we go. So now I'm going to actually take this, put it on top, because I need to mark some more lines on my template. So I need to mark this line, but I'm just going to mark it with a dash because that's actually going to be my seam allowance. For this specific, for the front flap, everything else is 3/8 of an inch. For the front flap, I'm going to do 1/2 inch. And that gives me a little bit more room for top stitching. So I'm going to put this on my 1/2 inch line, my dashed line. I'm going to place this over top and draw that line. So now I have, I guess I should have extended that, but that's easy enough to fix as well. Now I have my template. That makes sense. If it doesn't, give me a shout, text me, message me, or on NCW XXL, and I will try and answer some questions. Hopefully that helps you. Thanks. A couple of things I'm going to add. I'm just going to show you, first of all, once I have the pieces, and I wouldn't necessarily have a pattern piece for each side, but now I do, so that's fine. So that now I can show you actually how all of this goes together. So once you have your 2 outside pieces sewn, your seam allowances, that's what you're going to end up with. So once everything's sewn together, there you go. In making my templates, I try to be as accurate, especially around the corners, as I can be. Now on the rest of the pattern pieces, it's not really crucial to me anyway, that I have all my corners and everything perfect. The one where I concentrated on was my Peltex piece for all of anything that is my Peltex, because that is going to be, I use that as my template actually for when I sew. What I did was I cut out, try to do as accurately as I possibly could, then actually put my corners together, and if there was anything hanging over or something that was a little more square than the other, then I trimmed it off. What's going to happen is, if this was my 2 layers of fabric, I'm going to, allowing for my seam allowance, I'm actually, and I will go through this when we're actually putting stuff together, I will mark all the way around, and that I'm going to try and stick to as closely as possible with my sewing. Because if my Peltex is cut out exactly like this, my seam around here is exactly the same shape. When I take my contrast, put it over top, tuck it all in, have it all nice and everything's nice and round. When I take that piece, after all of this is turned inside out, when I put this on, it's going to line up really nicely. This is one of the first ones that I did. I still haven't finished the wallet. It actually is for a friend of mine. It's kind of a sad story. She was newlywed, and her husband was killed in a car accident a few months after they got married. So what I've done actually is taken a picture of them, and I've laminated it with the vinyl laminate that you can get at the stores. And so it won't get dirty and stuff like that. I think she's going to appreciate it a lot. Now, yeah, you're going to like my top stitching. Not everything is absolutely perfect. And I've got some stuff to learn about my corners and that too. But you can tell that within reason, my corners are really quite nice. I don't have anything that's really super square, and the other thing is round. So this method for me works really well, and maybe you can get some benefit out of it as well. I don't know. It's I guess, again, I'm not telling you what to do or how to do it. I'm just showing you what works for me. Thanks.